So Rabbi to Eishei, Bira Inyan, namely that Yitzias Mitzrayim is Makif HaKorev, and Matan Torah is Makif HaChozer. So understand this through understanding the intimate association with Shabbos. The Torah associates Pesach with Shabbos, V'rasoimah with Shabbos, and Shavuos. We're counting 7 Shabbos, it's not 7 weeks, and Memachas and Shabbos, the various psukim that he brought earlier. So what's the connection? Why is Shabbos so intrinsic to this whole inyan? Because in Shabbos, there are these 2 parallel levels, as it turns out at the end, the parallel or related levels of Makif HaKorev and Makif HaRochek, namely the 2 levels of Tainig and Shabbos. So he explains. First is the inyan of what? The Tainig that comes after the 6 days of work. He asked the question, the pasuk says, Sheish Samim Tavit. 6 days you should work as if it's a commandment. What is the commandment to work for the 6 days? And for the 6 years, likewise, you also find Sheish Shanim Tizeras Karmecha. For 6 years you shall sow your field and so on. Do you have to be told to work? You work because you have to put bread on the table. And if you don't have to work, you won't work. If you inherited a lot of money, or whatever the case may be, you won the lottery. So why is it Torah telling us to work? It seems a commandment that is superfluous, or not superfluous, it just need not be stated. Either you need to or you don't need to. The answer b'pnimius is that you do need to, because that goes on the whole avodah of elevating the berurim. That's the work that each one of us must be engaged in one way or another. And that's a very lofty inyan. That's the reason why the rise of the neshama came down the mata, and that's why Torah was given. It's all part of the Dirib Tachtonim. So then, this is all during the week. The Lamates Malachis, the 39 Malachis, Uvdin Dechoyel, mundane matters. Just it doesn't say this here, but it's self-understood. The Lamates Malachis are all what? To build the Mishkan. That's the whole kavanah, is to make the world a Mishkan, the Dira, a home for the Eibishter. That's what we're building during the week. But then comes Shabbos and there's Aliyah L'mayla. And that's the Shvisa, that's the rest and tranquility and the stopping. Shvisa means to stop work. So this is, as a result of this completion of the work, is Gili or Tainug, like a person, a person down here. And when a person works, so he's invested all the way down in his Koyach HaMais and his work. When he completes the job, so the Koyach HaSiyah ascends. This is an important observation. It's not that he stops working. It's the koyach that he does stop working, but it's not like it disappears now, that investment. The koyach that he invested in the work is gone. It's not so. Nothing is gone. It ascends and is misla in the nefesh. It's withdrawn to the nefesh, that koyach. And that's where the tainig is. And likewise, Lamaila, even though for Hashem there's no effort, but Dvarash, Avayash, Shemayim Nasu, Hashem made creation with the divine word, and Hashem's word is like the Gemara says, Bedr says, the Eibishter's words are like actions. So therefore, the Eibishter has this tainig. That's the aliyah. The aliyah, the rest is the withdrawal of this in creative force on that level, and from then comes the tainug. But then he added a very important detail here. That's not simply the pshat, where that person stops the work and what's withdrawn within him is only the koyach hamaisa, but all of the other faculties as well. Because when a person does something, he's invested not only with his hands, no matter what the labor is, whether it's typing in the computer or tilling the field. It's not just his hands. It's because he has in the words Etzlo shel kiruv, he has an emotional attachment to some degree to the whole inyan. If he didn't, then he'd have to stop working. There has to be some emotional investment. That's the midas. And then, of course, the seichel. The seichel, that's why some workplaces become untenable, because they conflict with the midas most often. And then they have to have the seichel. The seichel has to be obviously invested, that what he does should be done, guided by intellect. And even though it's not the pnimis seichel, but still it's the seichel. And moreover, while he's working, he's not thinking of something else, not learning, entertaining loftier ideas. He's invested in his work. And moreover, we have to say he has the rotzen. Why is he doing it if not the rotzen? Not only does he have the rotzen, ultimately all this root is motivated by the tainug at the end. Otherwise, he wouldn't begin the whole process. So it comes out, therefore, that the end of the malacha, the aliyah is in all of the koiches. Likewise, a parallel l'maylo, that the parallel l'maylo is not only Bereshis bara elikim, not only Hashem's actual creative force, the overt creative force, Bereshis bara elikim, but also Shem Havaya, as the pasuk says, Shabbos laHashem. And that's because even though the overt koyach and creation, Hashem elikim b'gematria teva, etc., but nonetheless, Shem Havaya, Hashem is totally invested in Shem Havaya, as implied by the word Shem Havaya, which means Mahava, bring into being. And so therefore the Shavis says, even in Shem Havaya, he went into the details, all Daladais, because the creative process engages Shem Havaya in all of its levels. Not only the last level, the Hey, the Malchus, the final word, but all the Sviris, of Atzilus, and we'll see in higher. This is into what's into two? What's into two that the main overt creating force is Malchus / Elohim. That's into two in the pasuk on the day Behibaram, when he created them. Behibaram, the Hey, the Gemara says that it's with the Hey that he created them, and with the Yud he creates the world to come. But the Hey, this world is created. But not only the final Hey, but also the Vav, the Midas, as also the pasuk says, Sheshes Shamim Masa, in 6 days he made. It doesn't say in 6 days, it says 6 days made, not in 6 days, implying that the 6 Midas involved in creation. And not only that, it's also Chachmat bin Zohar says in the pasuk Vayimra Elikim. These 2 words is Abba Oma Le'ima. I don't know how to explain it, but that's what the Zohar says. And moreover, this is much clear indication. Kulam Chachma Sisa. So Chachma is involved, and Bina, and on the contrary, the main Yisavas is Yud within of those 10 spheres, because Yud implies constant creation. So therefore, the conclusion is that every Shabbos is the Aliyah, and not just Shem Elikim, but Shem Havaya. And not only Shem Havaya is as Yud Kevav case Mislabish in Biyah, which we're kind of describing now, but even Atzilus itself, as the pasuk says, Kulam b'chachma sisa, including even Atzilus, that's described as God's act. So Atzilus has an aliyah. And moreover, not only Atzilus, it's Chaim says that Chachma the Ak is Meldobish and Chachma the Atzilus. So therefore, the Shvis says even a Chachma the Ak, the loftiest levels. And then he adds a point at the end of this paragraph. The emphasis is that the Yerida for the highest levels is the most dramatic, even though overtly it's not such a great Yerida from Akin to Chachma the Atzilus. But the higher you go, the smallest Yerida is the greatest change, which is obvious. The lower you go, the more finite, so more finite. But the more abstract, that's what happens. The higher we go in Yishtalshlus, the more abstract. So any compromise of abstract, any even subtle, is a big Yerida, and it's a much bigger Yerida than adding another line or another boundary to that which is essentially bounded anyway. It's almost negligible. It's a principle in life. The higher, the deeper, when there's descent and change and compromise, it's the greatest effect, the deepest effect. Yeah. So that's I say we can't just translating everything, and I think we should because we're trying to do that now. So this is all this you can follow along. This is all this in the second paragraph of Vahi. But this is all what the shvisa that comes, the menucha and shvisa that comes after the yigiyah, after the toil. Then there's menucha be'etzem. So like David HaMelech and Shlomo, David HaMelech, wars were won, so he had peace. But Hashem tells him, sorry, you can't build the base of Mikdash. That's not the kind of peace that we need at the end. Not a peace because your enemy is defeated, but a peace be'etzem, that the enemy is actually part of, ultimately. That kind of peace is transformative. It's not a victory because you overpowered the enemy. It only lasts as long as he's beaten. And then after Shabbos, back to the grind again. But then there's a Atzmi Dike Menucha, which is embodied by Shlomo, and that's the Pnimius of Shabbos. And Be'emes, it's that Pnimius Dike is a paradox here. That Pnimius Dike Tainag we're supposed to carry with us the whole week. It's a higher one. That's the Atzmi Dike one. That's what he said in the mind, but even Mitzias Mitzrayim, which was a Tainag. Then, as a result of crushing and defeating Mitzrayim, since it's a Chonah Batan Torah, even then it's Atzmi Dike Tainag. So what it means in Avodah, it means that every Shabbos, after Shabbos, that's the significance of the wine spilling into the plate below and the Mlava Malka that we eat. That's a luz that's nourished by the Mlava Malka. And we bridge the gap between Shabbos and the weekday. What we're really bringing into Shabbos is the Atmis Dike Tainig, which means that even as the person, as we said yesterday, the other day, is engaged in life and its battles, this is the profound serenity and connection that pervades all of it on a very essential level, notwithstanding on the external level, it can be a raging battle. And he's both at the same time. So, but now he's isolating and identifying the high level of Tainik. So what's that? That's the one that associated with Shlomo. The Eibusha told him that that's why it's called Shlomo, Shalom, Ish Menucha, a man of tranquility, Hashem says, and I will grant peace in his days. And it's transformative too. You see that the Malchus Shva, the Queen of Sheba, the symbol of Malchus of Klippa, came and brought her, want to be part of the whole Beis HaMikdash experience, and brought. They came from brought precious gems. Okay, there was a Yerida there because it wasn't Mashiach yet. That alliance was not did not bring to the ultimate transformation, but it was a step in the right direction, obviously. And the kavan of Dirub Tachtonim is nothing should happen directly. Everything has to stumble first, at least. Even this Tainag Atzmi. Was his hapcher, she was coming, no mulchama. It was too easy. As Leonard Cohen says, in one of his final songs, not his final song, you want it darker. It's in the Kaddish song, I think, maybe it's the other song, the two final songs that he composed. And I have no doubt that he looks at this. He had quite a dissociation with Simon Jacobson and a correspondence as well. And they spent nights together. Simon taught him Chassidus and Gunim. He was blown away. This was the end of his life, the last few years. That should be Ilin Nishmasek, mentioning him in a Maimer. He's a good man, definitely meant it. He was sincere. So anyway, Shoin, let's go further. So Shlomo Melech, that embodies the Menucha Be'etzem. And what is that? So that's a Menucha that's not, again, comes after Yigiyah. It's not a rest from a job well done from an enemy defeated, but it's an essential tranquility, essential being, the delight of being bound up with the ultimate being, Hashem. There is no other true essential delight. And this is in every Shabbos. Let's just get this straight. That in Shabbos there are two levels. There's two levels of Tainug. There's, in general, it's Friday night and the Shabbos day. So Friday night is the Aliyah, the Berurim, right? The Berurim have been elevated, and the ascent he described earlier, the Keiches HaNefesh, are withdrawn back into the source. But Shabbos days, Mashochem L'mayla Mata, that's a Tainug Atzmi. Now, in detail, in each one of them, Friday night and Shabbos day, there's both in Yonim. And in each one of them, there's the Menucha after Yigir and Menucha Be'etzem. So he spells it out. In Tfilis, you have both in Tfilis and in the Suda, you have both in Yonim. Because Tfilis is Alim Lamayda Lamata, that's with the lower Avedis HaBerurim, but also Tainik Poshet. So there's both things in Tfilah. In Shabbat, in Suda, there is Suda is Amshochem Lamayda Lamata, fact, and also the lower Tainuk, Einik HaMurgish, the Tainuk that you're getting from the food that you're consuming. So we have both in Yonim, both levels of Tainuk, both Friday night and Shabbos day. Because Friday night and Shabbos day, there is both Suda and Tefillah, and in the Suda and Tefillah, each one is both in Yon. Clear? I kind of struggled with that. The Emsheim has a big kasha at the end. I'll share it with you. Big kasha. That's something I don't understand. Still, that needs to be understood. But anyway, let's finish this Inyan. So we have both in Yonim of Tainik and Shabbos, but he says, the true Tainug Atzmi, of course, is Yom Shekoli Shabbos. When Mashiach comes, but there's a taste to that every Shabbos when at Suda Shlishis, the third Suda, Shalashudas. Raive dechol raive, desire within desire. That's mean to say, not just Tainug, but Pnimis Tainug. Tainug Bilti Murgish. That's why, as he says, Hayoim Loi, we learn out the three Sudas from the fact that it says the word Hayoim 3 times, but the third time it says, today you will not find the manna. They were wondering what was happening. And so the diak is that the third, from this Hayoim you learn the Suda, third Suda. That's the Mokkah of 3 Sudas on Shabbos. But it says, Lo, you won't find, hinting to, this Suda is higher than Achila, higher than the Tainug HaMurgish. It's being nourished essentially, like in Kippur. The guf is nourished from the neshama. So that we have a foretaste of that kind of atzmis diketainug shalashudas. Just as an aside, shalashudas, not so much in Chabad too. I mean, Chabad is Fabrenges, but in the Chassidish world, this is one of the highlights. For this reason, shalashudas, that's when he has his tish. Also Friday night Rebbe, but shalashudas. One sudden I heard this expression like, there's an expression that says more than the Jews kept Shabbos kept the Jews. It's a well-known Yiddish expression. No, just difficult it is for the Jews to keep Shabbos. it's but over the millennia, that's what kept us Jewish in Shabbos. Kept us going. Excuse me. But within Shabbos itself, I forgot where I heard it or read it. I heard it. The Shalashudas, the Chassidish Shalashudas in the Shtiblach throughout Europe. That's what kept that spark going, even after the Holocaust. It's symbolic because Shalashudas is it's the climax of Shabbos. In everything else in the world, when something ends, it winds down. It hits a climax and then it winds down and it goes home. But Yiddishkeit is no chas v'sholom winding down. It ends at its peak. The kavanah is to take that and bring it with you. So by the Rebbe that, Shabbos didn't wind down, Yom didn't wind down, ended with Fabrengen, Keish Bracha. You walked out at 770, the greatest exhilarating high, exhausted physically, perhaps, but exhilarated. The Kesha Brocha, just the Rebbe's boundless energy after days of Fabrengen and the Satfila and so on. So When will they have so Shalashudis is a taste of it. That's how we say by Shalashudis, can be itcha menuchasam. Menucha shleima shatareiseba. The diak is meitcha from you. Menucha be'etzem. Menucha shleima, shleimas. So this is all connect. Why are we talking about this? Because this is all helping us to understand the makif hayoshe, makif hachayze, medale galahar, mekapetz alak voice. So makif hayoshe is the shaykh giloi. It's in of giloi, and every important words here, concept. If we're talking giloi, revelation already implies concealment. Concealment implies already, well, before that's otherness. The concealment means a battle. It's a battle. So if the giloi, makif hayosh is all giloi, it's gewaltige giloi, but it's a gil that has to overcome resistance. So that's the resistance is the amal v'yigi of Shabbos and the tranquility which follows. So this is parallel to the manuch that comes after the yigi. We're following this, yes. But the makiv aver chayzer, it's higher than giloi. It's optimistic thing. No shaykh tzimtzum, no shaykh helem. There is no enemy. Ein mulvadoi. There's no battles to be fought. The pnimis, everything is elikos. And when that is revealed, to menucha be'etzem, a tainik bilti murgish. When I say built in murgish, there's no resistance or overcoming its being, so it's not murgish. Just an illustration of a tiny built in murgish is poshet. The deepest tainig is to be alive. You feel this? You wake up, I'm alive. Suddenly your life is threatened. And there's a resistance to it, then we appreciate we're alive. Otherwise, don't feel it. Enjoy the coffee. I'm enjoying the coffee. I'm enjoying being alive. Built in murgish. It's so deep that it only services when it's threatened. And then, of course, we do anything to preserve life. Okay, we'll leave my shaila aside.
That's a question. Isn't that our chayzer also dependent on meaning that the fact that there's darkness and notwithstanding that, still all of the coast, that's it, part of the our chayzer, no?
You said the word dependent. Why is it dependent?
Not dependent, but it's the fact that it's like notwithstanding that there is darkness, that's also you.
You said when it's revealed. Yeah, true.
So it's not that when it's not existent, they're not.
I think if I'm getting what you're saying, it's not that in the world of El Chayza you don't have all of the.
Right.
You're 100% right. The whole kavanah is El Chayza, that this Atzm Deger takes everything with it, as it were, and too. Not dependent. It permeates, not dependent. Dependent on the battle.
Dependent. When we're saying in the context of our chayzer, it's that there's that in you, no? That there is that in you, there could be.
The kavanah is that the etzem. Well, I think you're saying, yeah, the kavanah is that the etzem pervade all of the pratim, the darkest of the world. Yeah, that's the kavanah. The whole world be a home, every detail. Now, to build a home, there was a huge battle to put that thing up. But what the end result is that everything that's in the home, which previously they'd be in battle to get, to acquire, to buy, quite simply. I'm just thinking of this further. To buy the stuff to build your home, it's tremendous toil. Price for everything on every level. But then once it's there, it's all expressive of you. Your atzmisdik state of being of Thailand.
Right, so that our chayzer is. I don't know if the word is the right word was dependent, but maybe pre all this, that it's just there's no. It's
an atmistic tainug that
doesn't manifest.
Right. There's no chiddush to it, and the kavanah is not being realized.
It's that chiddush, so it's kind of dependent on this darkness.
Yeah, but the gilui of the oil chayzer, it's being disgaled. It's megal in an atmistic way. Because this is mekapetz ala gvois. As he says later in Matan Torah, this tzivuyim. He spells it out later. He asked the question. We're saying, so Matan Torah is the Tainug Atzmi. Matan Torah is also a battle. It says, do this, don't do this. The answer is, it's not inside the battle. That's inside incorporating it all within Kedusha. And moreover, he says, it's not even about the world. It's about Eden. As we say, keep on explaining that the whole union of a bias is the people in the bias. It's their Tainug reflected in all of these things, which they arrived at through, acquired initially level one through battle. But then it all becomes just being. It's all easy in the deepest way. But yet, the whole kavanah is that this Atzmi embrace all of the pratim of the world. It permeates every prat, every detail of a creation. Did I answer your question? All right. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. What is my question? I mean, if I say it to you, maybe as I'm saying it, I'm going to answer it. As it says in Chassidus, when you bring something in Dibur, so Dibur is mamshir from Kadmas HaSeichel, you have all the time. And the teacher knows this. Teaching, all of a sudden things, it becomes clear. Because you're drawing on Kadmas HaSeichel, Dafk in the Oisius. Chachma Yosef Brata, right? Brata, the daughter, Oisius, is rooted in Chachma, in Kadmas HaSeichel. Here's my question, if I can remember my question. So, Friday night is Malamata Lamaila. That's a tainug, just separating the two, Friday night and Shabbos day. That's a tainug which is murgish, finished the job well done, sigh of contentment. Shabbos day is a higher tainug. Shabbos day is a tainug atzmi. But then he says, not bat yet. I just put this on the table, see my question. Friday night, Salim, Lamata, Lamaila, Shabbos days, I'm Shachim, Lamaila, Lamata. And I'm Shachim, Lamaila, Lamata. Like before we go further, yes, this accords very well. You said before that the Tainug, the low level of Tainug, the Koiches and Nefesh, that invested, ascend into the Nefesh. Friday night, as Aliyah. Shabbos day, I'm Shachim. Just a little bit of tension here is, Hamshachim Lamaila Lamata, not to be confused with Ur Yosha, because we're saying this is a Tainug Atzmi. Right? And we call, here's a bit of, maybe I think this was my question. We call the Tainug Atzmi Ur Choyzer. That implies Aliyah. So not to be confused, not the same thing. Ur Choyzer is not the same as Aliyah Lamata Lamata. See, as I'm talking, it's becoming clear. As Aliyah Lamata Lamaila. Although it could be confused. Right? You can see where Ur Choyzer Tainug Atzmi, and that is associated with Shabbos day, which he says is Amshachim Lamaila Lamata. He said that's Ur Yosha. It's two different. The language is similar, but it's not the same thing. Oy Chayz is not a lim lamata l'mayla. Oy Chayz means, the best way I can explain it, I think it's right, is a giloi atzmi that takes everything and elevates everything into its atzmitic state. It's not the aliyah, the battle on extracting the nitzutzik dusha, which is alim lamata l'mayla means. This dogged descent of skafi and bittul. That's what that aliyah means. It's not the same as Oy Chayz. And when he said the Shabbos days, I'm shachim l'mayla lamata, and that's associated with Tainug Atzmi, that means that the etzem is nizgal. That's what it means here. That's what it means here. Even though it's the same language he almost described Ur Yosher with, but not to be confused. The language can be. I think that was my question. I remember my question. I think that was it. If that's what it was, good. Answers. Okay. Vav. Let's look at Vav. Yeah, we can finish for sure. Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. Finish the Chazor. Everybody can start next Monday tomorrow. So now we go on to say this is it. So Yitzias Mitzrayim and Matan Torah. Yitzias Mitzrayim is skipping. Matan Torah is Mekapitz because Yitzias Mitzrayim, even though there's a whole Arichas Gelui, even the Ma'anim we say Yishtal Shlas Va'avarti, says the pasuk, and we say in the Agada, I, not a Malach, not a Sadaf, not a Shliach, not Levlayacher, but this is an agenda, Giloi, this is an agenda in order to be Mavatal and destroy Mitzrayim. The Rebbe Sa'or is coming soon. And that came to the climax of Makas B'chayris, which is when this pasuk says, when the pasuk is stated, Vavarti. And therefore, that's why, since it had an agenda, you didn't have to have a special separating sign. That's the basic sign that they had to put on the doorpost. Likewise, in the previous Makkahs, Samti produce. So, he started all arichas. Why do you have to have such a big giloy? You have to have such a giloy of hide and ishtalshalus, which is kind of saying in the face of that, everybody's equal. You didn't have to be separate, not spelling it out. Why isn't that enough? Like the Gemara says about the malachim. The malachim were taken care of by Hashem extending his small finger, which is malchus datzilus, bing, bang, gone. Their protest was nullified. Why do you need the avarti, which is very lofty, but it's still not the etzem, but it's amshachas hakeser in the highest level? Why not say the shtalshas? In other words, to rephrase the question. Rephrase the question. The Egyptians deserve this or don't deserve it? They deserve it. It's a bezdin shamayla of Vasiyah. Bezdin shamayla, chesed and gevur of Vasiyah. That should be the psak din. You need to have some hide and shtalshalus. So what was the answer? The answer is that to ultimately completely defeat, this is what he says in the Pnim, and he answers in the others. To completely defeat Mitzrayim, you can't have ishtalshalus. An example that we gave. At the moment you give a reason, a justification, you're the bad guys, you deserve. Oh, really? Look at him. He's no different than us. What kinds of kindness? It opens the whole argument. In other words, if it's coming from gvul, even the most subtle level of gvul of ishtalshalus, so Mitzrayim is a terrible gvul, but you're also gvul. So I'm valid. You can't dismiss me completely. I also have an argument. I also have a position. I have a huge ego. You got a small ego, so your small ego. Therefore, I'm meant to be dismissed. You have no right. But by what right? You also have an ego. The person has an agenda. The person has a personal agenda. To the degree that he has a personal agenda, to that degree, he will not be successful. Because the other person senses this is about you and your agenda. So otherwise, why am I the korban for your agenda? If it's the absolute truth, that's the truth. You can't. There's no counter argument. So Shtalsha is not the absolute truth. Because the Shtalsha says, yeah, there's an Eibishter, there's also me. There's also me. There's also me. That's the answer he gives in the Maamar. Right, Bekitzer, right? We'll look in more detail. It's very geschmack, so we'll review that in more detail. Be'ezer Hashem tomorrow.